You ever had one of those neighbors? The kind who acts like they own the whole street, even though their name's not on a single property, but their own? Yeah, I do. Her name's not actually Karen, but let's be real, it fits. She walks around like she's the sheriff of the neighborhood, clipboard in hand, watching everybody, judging everybody. If your garbage comes out 10 minutes too long, she's already filing a complaint. If your grass is half an inch too high, she's calling the HOA. She lives to boss people around, and she does it with this smug smile like she's doing the world a favor. Now, I usually just ignore her. I stay in my lane, take care of my house, mind my business. But then she took something that wasn't hers. And this time, I had just the right kind of surprise ready for her. But let me back up a bit. It started off as a pretty normal day. Sun was out, birds were doing their bird thing, and I had ordered this cool little gadget online. It was one of those limited release items, something I'd been waiting weeks to get my hands on. What made it extra cool? It was coming by drone. Yeah, a fully automated drone delivery. It drops the package in your yard and flies off. Super futuristic, right? Anyway, I was excited. I even got a notification on my phone. Drone approaching with your delivery. I ran out to the front, looked up at the sky, and there was the sleek black drone buzzing gently toward my house. It hovered over my yard, slowed down, and then suddenly it veered off to the left. Weird, I thought. Maybe it's adjusting. Maybe it's confused by the trees or something. But no, it kept drifting, like it was making a beeline for the next yard over, Karen's yard. Now look, I don't want to assume the worst, right? I mean, maybe the drone glitched. Maybe GPS got a little mixed up. But I watched, standing on my driveway, as the drone gently lowered itself right into Karen's backyard. It landed on the grass, delivered the box, and zipped away like it had done its job perfectly. I stared in shock. My package was in her yard. I could see it. Plain brown box. My name on it. Just sitting there. Now, most people, right, they'd pick up the box, realize it's not theirs, and maybe bring it to your door. Ring the bell. Hey, this accidentally dropped in my yard. That's what normal people do. But Karen? Nope. She walked outside, looked at the box for a second, picked it up, turned around, and went back inside like it belonged to her. No knock, no text, no message, nothing. I just stood there, confused, a little angry. Okay, really angry. My blood was starting to boil. Like, are you serious right now? She knows where I live. It's literally next door. There's no way she didn't see the name on the box. There's no way she thought it was hers. I tried to be calm at first. Gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she thought it was a mistake, and she'd bring it over later. So I waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Still nothing. I sent a friendly text. No reply. Just silence. Radio silence. And that's when it hit me. She was keeping it. She wanted it. Now, here's the part she didn't know. That drone? It was part of the delivery company's test program. And because it was a trial run, they had asked me if I wanted access to the drone controls for feedback purposes. I had the app, I had the camera, I had the controls, and most importantly, I had the Siren. See, the drone was equipped with a couple of cool features. It had a light, a camera feed, and, my personal favorite, a high-pitched siren built in for emergencies. You know, just in case someone tried to steal a delivery. Now I wasn't about to do anything crazy. I wasn't going to fly it into her house or start any drama, but I was going to get my package back and maybe teach her a little lesson in the process. So I waited, not long, just enough time to be sure she thought she got away with it. I imagined her sitting on her couch, opening the box, getting all excited over something she didn't pay for, that smug little grin on her face. The one she always wears when she's writing someone up for parking too close to the curb. I pulled up the drone controls. The camera was still active. I could see the rooftops, the yards, everything. I guided the drone gently back over her property, not too close, just hovering, waiting. Then I saw her come out, right on cue. She stepped into her backyard with a cup of coffee, like it was a regular afternoon. Still no sign of my package. Still no apology. No attempt to return it. That's when I tapped the button. Siren on. The noise that came out of that drone? Piercing. Loud enough to make your ears ring. It wasn't just a beep, it was a shriek. High-pitched, aggressive, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Karen looked up like the sky had just opened up. Her eyes went wide. She dropped her cup. Literally dropped it. Splash, right onto the patio. She stumbled backward, trying to see what the noise was, where it was coming from. I steered the drone a little lower, still safe, but definitely visible. It hovered like some kind of high-tech guardian angel of justice. Her hands shot up to cover her ears. She was shouting something, but I couldn't hear it over the sound. And honestly, I didn't care. The siren kept blaring for a few more seconds, long enough to get the message across. Then I hit the stop button. Silence. She looked around, stunned, hair all over the place, face red, completely rattled. I watched as she turned and rushed back into her house. A few minutes passed. I just stood there, watching from my window, heart pounding a little. It felt good, satisfying, even. Then the front door opened, and there she was, holding my package. She walked up to my porch, set it down gently, like she didn't want to wake a sleeping bear, and walked away without saying a word. No eye contact. No oops. No fake excuse. Just dropped it and left. And in that moment, I didn't need to say a thing, because the drone had already spoken loud and clear. It's funny how one small thing can make you start noticing everything that's been wrong all along. After the whole drone incident, I couldn't shake the feeling. I kept thinking about how bold it was to just take something that wasn't hers. Not even hesitate. No shame, no guilt. Just scoop it up like she deserved it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't the first time something strange had happened in our little neighborhood. I'd brushed off a lot of little things before. Packages delayed. Mail gone missing. Random neighborhood gossip about suspicious activity that always seemed to end with Karen somehow being involved. And suddenly, everything started connecting. There was this one time months ago where I ordered a set of gardening tools. Nothing fancy, just a basic kit. Got the delivery notification. But the box was never there. At the time, I figured maybe it was misdelivered. I didn't even complain. Just reordered and moved on. But now, looking back, I started to wonder. Then there was a time my neighbor across the street, Tim, mentioned something about a missing package too. I remember him laughing it off. Said he thought the delivery guy dropped it at the wrong door and someone must have just forgotten to return it. We joked about the idea of a package gremlin, but maybe it wasn't a gremlin. Maybe it was just Karen. It's a weird feeling, realizing that someone you live next to, someone you wave at, could be doing stuff like that behind your back. And not just to you, to everyone. But here's the thing. Karen isn't just a thief. She's the kind of person who hides behind rules and uses them like weapons. That's what makes her dangerous. Let me explain. Karen's not officially on the HOA board, but she acts like she runs it. She attends every meeting. She sits in the front row. She takes notes. Actual notes, like she's in a courtroom. And somehow, she always knows when something isn't up to code. Trash bins out too early? You'll get a warning. Driveway not pressure washed? You'll find a notice stuck to your door. One guy down the block painted his fence a slightly different shade of white, just a bit warmer than the approved tone. She had the HOA fine him $300. $300. Another neighbor planted wildflowers in their yard. Not weeds, not overgrown junk, actual flowers. Looked beautiful. But nope, Karen said it disrupted the uniform look of the neighborhood. Complained until they were forced to tear it out. It's like she wakes up every morning looking for something to be mad about. Some little thing to report. Some reason to feel in control. And for the longest time, people just tolerated it, rolled their eyes and moved on, because it wasn't worth the drama. But now it felt personal. This wasn't just her being annoying. She crossed a line. She didn't just report me for my recycling bin being out too long. She took something with her own hands. She stood in her backyard, looked down at a box with my name clearly printed on it, and decided it was hers. No hesitation. And what's worse, I was starting to suspect she'd done it before. So I decided to do a little digging. Nothing illegal, just good old-fashioned observation. I started paying attention, watching, making mental notes. And it didn't take long before things started getting interesting. First off, I noticed a delivery pattern. Packages in our neighborhood usually get dropped off around midday, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. That's prime time. And every day during that window, like clockwork, Karen was outside, watering her already perfectly watered plants, trimming bushes that didn't need trimming, sweeping her driveway for the third time that week, just hanging out, not doing much, just there. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A delivery truck pulled up to the house across the street, dropped off a box. Standard routine. They drove off. 5 minutes later, Karen casually walked over, looked around, glanced at the house, then bent down and picked up the box. Just picked it up, like it was her mail. She didn't ring the bell, didn't knock, just carried it back toward her place. I couldn't believe my eyes. Now, the logical side of me wanted to say, maybe she's just helping, maybe she was going to hand it to them later. But my gut, it was telling me a different story. And I'd learned to trust that gut lately. So I started documenting things. Quietly, I'd take photos through the window, jot down notes, timestamps, what she was wearing, where she walked. It felt a bit like spying, sure, but this was a pattern, and I wasn't the only one affected anymore. And then something wild happened. One afternoon, I was out walking my dog when I saw a small group of neighbors talking near the mailbox cluster. They waved me over. Just casual stuff at first, weather, local events, whatever. But then someone, a woman named Carla, lowered her voice and said, "Have any of you been missing deliveries lately?" Heads nodded. Instantly. Turns out, this had been going on longer than I thought. Weeks, months, even little things disappearing. Boxes marked as delivered but never arriving. And every single time, no witnesses. No cameras, no proof. Until now, I told them what I saw. Not just the drone thing. The one with the neighbor's package. 2, I showed them the photos I'd taken. Their eyes widened. Some people looked shocked. Others didn't. One guy just muttered, "I knew it." But it wasn't just about the stolen items. That wasn't the only reason people were upset. Karen had created this environment of fear. People were scared to speak up. Scared to be next on her list. One woman said she got a violation later the day after she confronted Karen at a meeting. Another guy admitted he started parking 2 blocks away because Karen kept reporting him for blocking sightlines near the stop sign. She wasn't just annoying. She was controlling people, intimidating them. And honestly, that shook me more than the stolen box. Because it made me realize how easy it is for one person to make an entire group feel powerless. Not by using force, not with threats, but with rules, with fake authority, with manipulation. And the craziest part? She probably thought she was doing the right thing, that she was protecting the neighborhood, that everyone needed her to keep things in order. But really, all she was doing was tearing down trust, one petty complaint at a time. After the Siren incident, things started shifting. It was subtle at first. Karen wasn't outside as much. The daily patrol stopped. No more endless sweeping or fake yard work during delivery hours. She kept her head down, kept to herself. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe she was mad. Who knows? But she wasn't her usual loud self. And the neighbors, they noticed. I started getting quiet nods. Little thumbs-up gestures. One person even baked me cookies. Didn't say why. Just handed them over with a smile. It felt like the air had changed. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Not completely. Because people like Karen, they don't usually go quietly. They regroup. They wait. And then they find another angle. So I kept watching. Just in case. I thought maybe things would settle down. Maybe the siren was enough. Maybe that one loud, embarrassing moment will be the thing that finally got through to her. But people like Karen, people who live off control, who thrive on attention, they don't just disappear. At first, it was quiet, a little too quiet. No more patrols. No more phony gardening during delivery hours. For a few days, she stayed inside, curtains drawn like she was trying to avoid the world. And I'll admit, part of me hoped that meant it was over. Like, finally, some peace. But silence with someone like Karen, it's not a surrender. It's a warning. One afternoon, I came home from work to find a letter taped to my door. Not mailed, not tucked in the mailbox. Taped, bold red ink on the envelope, screaming immediate attention. My heart sank the second I saw it. Inside was a typed-out complaint. Not handwritten, not informal. This thing looked like it was professionally prepared. It had my name, my address, even a little HOA logo printed at the top. Accusations listed like bullet points. Noise disturbances. Unauthorized drone activity. Harassment of a fellow homeowner. And at the bottom, this letter serves as a final warning before further disciplinary action is taken. No signature, just a typed name. One I recognized. HOA committee chair. And guess who the vice chair was? I could feel my face heating up as I read it again. This wasn't about the drone. This was retaliation. She couldn't confront me directly. So she used the one weapon she knew best. The HOA. And here's the thing, Karen doesn't bluff. When she goes for something, she commits all the way. This wasn't just her throwing a tantrum. This was calculated. A slow, careful attempt to shift the narrative. Paint herself as a victim. Make me look like the aggressor. It was clever. I'll give her that. She knew the system. She'd been playing the HOA game for years. Knew the rules, the loopholes, the right people to email. And she used it like armor, like a shield to cover up her own shady behavior. But this time, I wasn't about to let it slide. I started collecting everything. Screenshots of my delivery logs, footage from the drone cam, timestamps, emails from the drone delivery company proving I had access to the Siren feature and permission to use it, photos from the day she took my package, even witness statements from neighbors who had seen similar things happen. It wasn't just about proving she took my stuff anymore. It was about showing a pattern, a trail of behavior that stretched way beyond just me. And once I started digging deeper, I found more than I expected. One neighbor, James, had installed a Ring camera after one of his deliveries vanished last year. He checked his archive after hearing my story. Guess what he found? Footage of Karen standing near his porch, pretending to take a picture of a bird and then slipping a small package into her jacket before walking off. Clear as day. Another family said they got a notice about leaving their Halloween decorations up too long. But the decorations were gone by November 2nd. Karen had sent in the violation request on November 1st, meaning she probably took photos the night before, just waiting to hit them with the fine. Everything about her was a performance, a show for power. Not justice, not order, just control. I knew I had to go further. If she wanted to play official, I'd match her step for step. So I filed a formal rebuttal. I attached every piece of evidence I had. Every clip, every document, every timestamp. I didn't make it emotional. I made it airtight. The kind of thing that can't be ignored. A week later, I was invited to attend an HOA mediation hearing. My first thought? This is ridiculous. But the second thought? Good. Let's do it. I showed up prepared. Laptop ready. Everything organized in folders. I wasn't just defending myself. I was ready to expose the whole pattern. The meeting started with the chair reading complaint. Cold, formal, like a courtroom. Then they asked if I had anything to say. I didn't just say something. I showed everything. First, the drone delivery video. Karen walking out, taking my package, clear as day. You could hear my name announced by the drone speaker as it landed. Then the footage of her backyard reaction when the siren went off. Panic, guilt, no words needed. I brought up the Ring cam footage James had shared with me. I brought in copies of other neighbors' statements. Every story, every complaint, every disappearing package. By the time I was done, the room was silent. Karen, who had been sitting there so smug when it started, was frozen. No clipboard, no smile, just this tight, pale expression, like someone whose favorite game had just been unplugged. Then the question started. Not for me, for her. Do you deny taking the package? What explanation do you have for this footage? Why didn't you report the misdelivery? She had nothing. A few half-formed excuses. I thought it was for me, she said. The drone confused my house. But the label had my name. The drone literally said my name. The committee didn't look convinced. In the end, they didn't say much. Just that they'd review the evidence and follow up with an official statement. But their faces said plenty. I left that meeting feeling a weird mix of relief and adrenaline, like I'd just come out of a boxing match. But it wasn't over, because the next morning I noticed something strange. My mailbox was slightly open, just a crack, and inside wasn't my usual pile of bills and junk. There was a single envelope, no return address, just my name. I opened it, one small note inside. It read, "Be careful who you mess with." No signature, no threats, just that one line. And the handwriting? It was neat, familiar, too familiar. I stood there for a minute, heart thudding. It wasn't just about the drone anymore. This was something else, something darker. And that's when it hit me. This whole time, I thought I was dealing with someone annoying, a busybody, a nosy neighbor with control issues. But this was different. This was personal. And deep down, I knew Karen wasn't done yet. The note sat on my kitchen counter for days. Every time I passed it, that one sentence echoed louder than the last. Be careful who you mess with. It was short, sure, but heavy, like someone had dropped a stone in my chest. I kept trying to convince myself it was nothing, just an empty threat, someone blowing off steam. But deep down, I knew exactly who it came from. It had Karen written all over it. Not literally, of course, but the handwriting was way too similar to the HOA complaints she used to slip under people's doors. Same perfect loops, same sharp am. I stared at it for hours, holding it side by side with an old violation letter I kept. Every little stroke matched. The weird thing is, I wasn't scared. Not in a I need to run kind of way. It was more of a slow burn inside me, a tired kind of anger. You know that moment when you realize someone is so obsessed with control, they'd rather play dirty than just admit they were wrong? That's where I was. And even though I didn't want to, I started wondering just how far she'd go. The next week was quiet, uncomfortably quiet. No more letters. No weird noises in the night. No passive-aggressive glares from across the yard. But I felt it. That pressure, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting until the cameras went down. I was checking my phone one morning, scrolling through the footage from my porch cam. Just routine now. When I noticed the last recording had stopped around midnight. Just stopped. I walked outside, looked up at the corner where the camera should be. Gone. Clean break at the mount. Wires left hanging. I rushed to the side yard. That one was missing too. Front yard. Back patio. Same thing. Every single camera had been taken down. Not yanked violently. Not smashed. Removed. Carefully. Like whoever did it wanted to send a message, but didn't want to be caught doing it. I didn't have to guess who did it, but I did call the police this time. I filed a report. Gave them everything I had. The videos. The note. The stolen packages. They nodded, asked questions, jotted things down. But you could tell, without clear proof, they weren't going to do much. Just another neighborhood spat on their long list. That frustrated me more than anything. Karen knew exactly where the line was. Just close enough to mess with me. Just far enough to stay technically innocent. I went to the hardware store that same day. Bought new cameras. Better ones. Higher resolution. Mounted higher, hidden better. I wasn't playing anymore. And then, like clockwork, the real chaos began. It started with trash. Someone dumped 3 full bags of garbage on my front lawn. Not kicked over, not an accident. Dumped, Like someone dragged their bins halfway across town and decided my grass was a new landfill. I cleaned it up without a word, didn't knock on doors, didn't post in the neighborhood group. I just smiled at the new cameras, knowing they were recording everything now. The next day, my power went out. Just mine. Every other house on the block had lights glowing through the windows. I checked the breaker box. Nothing. Called the electric company. They said someone had submitted an urgent disconnect request. Faked my name. Used an email address that wasn't mine. It took 4 hours to fix. For hours sitting in silence, the walls buzzing with tension, I started to think, what if she doesn't stop? What if this doesn't end until something worse happens? And then the siren came back. But not mine. This one went off at 2 a.m., high-pitched, piercing, like a car alarm on steroids. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, looked out the window, and there it was, a drone, hovering above my yard. Not one of mine. I didn't even recognize the model. It dipped lower, did a slow circle, and then shot upward and disappeared into the dark. I stood outside barefoot in silence for nearly 10 minutes. That's when I realized she was turning my own move against me. She was mocking me. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't just about control anymore. It was war. A private one. One that no one else really understood. But she made one mistake. That drone, it had a blinking green navigation light. I knew that light. Knew the brand. Knew it recorded everything to an internal SD card. Standard with that model. And if it recorded, it could be traced. So the next morning I made a few calls. Posted on a few tech forums. Asked a few hypothetical questions. Took screenshots. Compared serial numbers. Searched for registration details. It took a few days. But I found something. A drone registered to an address not far from ours. Not Karen's house, but her sister's. One town over. And guess who bragged about helping her niece learn to fly drones at last year's HOA picnic? Yep, that gave me the idea. Not revenge. Not a trap. Just truth. I compiled everything. Made a private video. A full timeline. From the first package to the drone incident to the trash and power. I use her own words. Quotes from her letters. Posts she'd made in the neighborhood Facebook group. All of it. Layered with footage, screenshots, timestamps. I didn't post it publicly. Not yet. I just sent it to the HOA board. Each member individually. Subject line. For your eyes only. Within 2 days, I got an email. They were calling an emergency meeting. I didn't say a word to Karen. Didn't look her way. Just showed up at the meeting, took my seat, and waited. The board didn't even bother with introductions. They went straight to business. Read out a list of documented incidents. Presented video evidence. Asked Karen to respond. She stumbled over her words. Tried to deflect. Claimed she was being harassed. But with every excuse she gave, another clip was played. Another screenshot shown. Then came the best part. They read a statement from her own sister. Apparently, the drone was Karen's, not her niece's, registered under her name. She bought a month ago, saying she wanted to learn how to keep up with new tech in the neighborhood. That was the final crack. The room went silent. Karen sat frozen, pale and rigid. And I sat there, tired, yes, but proud. Not because I'd won, but because I refused to back down. I stood up when the meeting adjourned, nodded politely, walked out without a word. As I passed Karen in the hallway, she turned away. No threats, no smug smile, just silence. Back home, I opened my front door. No trash, no weird notes, no mail tampered with. Just peace, real heavy peace. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night without checking the cameras.